Hey guys, what's up? I'm Kimmy Yam, editor of Asian Voices at HuffPost, and in a few minutes, I'll be joined by Annie Q, star of upcoming movie MDMA. The movie follows Angie Wang, an Asian American student from a working class family who gets into a prestigious university. When her financial aid is cut, she begins synthesizing and distributing ecstasy, but her double life eventually catches up to her and life takes a turn. The film, which comes out on September 14th, is actually an autobiographical drama, and the real Angie Wang is the director. Before we bring the lead Annie out, let's check out a clip from the movie.
So, you're looking for something different? A dash of spice, danger.
You be good, study hard, save money.
If you ladies are in something a little more intense, I think I have just the thing for you.
What is that?
Ecstasy. You won't be disappointed.
My guy says it flies off the shelves.
What are you working on?
3,4-methylenedioxymethamphetamine, MDMA. See if you can move this tonight. I can get you more. There's a huge demand.
Seriously, be careful.
I know how to take care of myself. I have a treat for you. Primo X, made by my loving hands.
Good thing Mystery X got us.
Guilty.
You know, you are a tough nut to crack. It's like you're guarding this secret. Who is Angie Wang?
There you go. I'm just who you see in front of you.
We would be happy to distribute the ecstasy.
For a fee.
You have a big heart, and you're brilliant and beautiful to boot. Maybe you should slow down, take some time.
Class is dismissed.
Your grades, you could get in serious trouble.
No money, no dope, no deal.
I just don't want to see you get in over your head.
I think you need to rethink your position. You crazy little whore!
I'm not for you, okay? Stop! Let me help you!
Awesome. So Annie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I know the film, it's crazy because it's autobiographical. It's based off of Angie Wang, the director's experiences. So what was it like not only playing a real person, but the literal director's life?
It was a lot of pressure, obviously, because I got to get to know her firsthand, and I got to observe her every day, how she breathed, how she spoke, how she moved. But I had to make a conscious decision as an actor, not just to imitate what I saw, but to kind of use that in my research of her as a foundation for the character that I wanted to forge. So I used some of my own influences, like Angelina Jolie in Girl Interrupted, and then I hope that this character is more than just a shadow of the actual person.
Right. Was there anything in particular that you did that you did to prepare for this role?
I would say that I watched a lot of documentaries about the 80s. I made an 80s playlist full of like Frankie Goes to Hollywood and David Bowie and all of those things.
Like actually good music.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't complain about that. So, Asian Americans for so long have been portrayed as this like squeaky clean model minority, but your character isn't exactly that.
No.
And she's living like a double life. So, did you feel that Angie really smashes a lot of these like nerd stereotypes while also kind of being some type of model minority that goes to this prestigious university, excels at science in a way?
I think the film definitely plays with the dichotomy of her character because obviously it's set in a time where so MDMA had been something that was prescribed by psychotherapists to their patients in the late 70s, early 80s. But then as it started to become known as a party drug, as a street drug, the DA banned it. And as a result of that, Angie took the opportunity. She realized that, you know, this was a chance for her to make money and pay her tuition. So she used her kind of pre-med skills to synthesize ecstasy and kind of run her own distribution chain on the West Coast in nightclubs and across college campuses. And all of this while she was kind of dealing with her own personal trauma from her childhood and from her past.
Right. Yeah. One thing that Angie Wang has talked about before is kind of the amount of sex in this movie, and there's kind of a lot of it. But historically, Asian women have been kind of hypersexualized, especially in Hollywood, where, you know, we're not given kind of these very developed characters. So when it comes to Asian women, it might be, you know, the geishas or, you know, these tropes. But do you feel that the film deals with Asian female sexuality kind of in a different way than it's historically been portrayed?
I think that obviously in this film, this character, she hasn't really had normal experiences. She's had traumatic experiences. Her father is an alcoholic. Her mother abandoned her when she was a kid. She grew up in an environment that was really unstable and uncertain. And as a result, she deals with these kind of things that haunt her from the past in this way by punishing herself.
Right. Yeah. So Angie comes from an immigrant background, and her father works hard at this restaurant. He also is dealing with a lot of these issues. But you yourself also come from an immigrant family.
Yes. I'm a first generation American-born Chinese.
Same.
Yeah.
Twins. Were you able to kind of relate to elements of the story because of your background?
I would say that I'm usually drawn to characters who have experiences totally different than me. And when I read the script for the first time, I felt like this character was also unlike any of the characters I'd played up until that point, which is what intrigued me, because I feel like to grow as an actor, you have to push beyond what you've already done.
Yeah. I mean, so in doing this role, did you feel that you had to kind of step outside of your comfort zone a little bit?
Definitely. I mean, exactly kind of what you were talking about with the intimate scenes. I feel like that they're really awkward and really uncomfortable. I mean, everything is so planned out, and it's just kind of choreography at the end of the day.
Right.
It's definitely not even one of the hardest things that I've had to do on screen, though. Like I did a film called 10, where I had my first on-screen death, and my character was murdered by electrocution. So there was, like, it was also highly choreographed in that there were a lot of moving parts, because I had to deal with practical effects. Like, there was blood that had to come from my nose. I was hooked up to the fog machine through my wardrobe. And then it was about the timing of the whole thing, so that when I met my character's untimely demise, just a little bit of blood had to come out from one of my nostrils, and it had to look like the skin was being seared off my hand. A little bit of smoke had to come out, and timing it just right. We had quite a few takes of that. It sounds really morbid, but it was actually a lot of fun.
It sounds pretty kind of cool in a way, you know? I've never heard of that, like a choreographed electrocution.
Yeah.
Well, that's something.
Yeah, behind the scenes magic, that's for sure.
Right. So the film kind of touches on a few topics that are fairly taboo in the Asian American community. So when we talk about like maybe alcoholism or domestic abuse, like these are two topics that, you know, are kind of, we see glimpses of that throughout the movie. But of course, in our culture, there's also, you know, a heavy concept of shame. And so we just kind of don't really talk about it. So did you feel an extra pressure maybe to kind of, in bringing these topics to light, because they haven't quite been explored as much on screen?
I think that there's always a pressure to do justice by the story. But I also think that, you know, it's important to remember that one film, one story, and one character can't represent an entire ethnic group or their experience. You know, some people are going to be able to relate to it, these experiences, and some people won't, but that's okay. I think what's more important is that we keep having platforms out there so that people can tell these different stories, because that's the way that people who have been ignored can feel like they've been seen and heard and included in the conversation. Because I think regardless of, the lines that divide us, whether that be our ethnicities or our beliefs or our political affiliations, at the end of the day, we actually all share a cultural identity and we're all Americans.
So you and a few other cast members stayed in the same house during filming and rehearsals.
Yes.
So what was that like? Did you guys feel closer, or did you just hate each other by the end because you're roommates?
I think we definitely felt closer while we were shooting because we were all staying in the same place, and there was this sense that, we are creating something together and pushing each other in the scenes to make the friendships and the relationships as authentic as possible.
Right, yeah. I mean, did you guys forge real friendships outside of the film?
I think that, so it's something to remember that with each project that you take on, it feels like a family, like you get to know everyone and all of a sudden everyone's super close. But at the end of the day, it is a professional environment, and it's easy to forget that sometimes, I think, because it's, everyone is so friendly with each other. Right. But at the end of the day, when a project wraps, even if it's heartbreaking, you move on with your life, you do other projects, you meet a new family.
So I wanted to talk about the clothes.
Lots of shoulder pads.
Yes.
Bodysuits.
It was really cute. I was really digging it. So, Angie kind of balls on a budget, but, she looks really good the whole time. So where did the outfits kind of come from, and did you get to keep them?
I kept one denim jacket from the film, and that was because it was hand painted. So it was really interesting because I didn't realize exactly what 80s problems were like, but the fashion from the 80s takes so much work. There's so many layers of things, whether it's the jewelry or the finger gloves or the bodysuits. I think there was one costume that I'd actually had to be sewed into and cut out of. So it was a lot of work, but I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I would wear any and all of that right now, honestly. So the movie it's out next month, and it follows a couple other movies with Asian American leads. So we have, Crazy Rich Asians, Searching, To All the Boys I've Loved Before. And so do you feel like throughout this whole journey, since shooting this, then seeing all these movies come out, do you feel that Hollywood has changed?
I think that diverse representation on screen has definitely improved across the board. And I don't think that's just for the Asian American community. I think that's also for the African American community, the Latin American community, the mixed race community, because I think the audience has proven that there is an appetite to see a world on screen that looks like the world around us. And I do think it's important to acknowledge the success of something like Crazy Rich Asians because it means so much to so many people, and I'm really proud to bear witness to that. But I also think, we have to acknowledge all of the creatives who are working in front of or behind the camera or even behind the desk because they're the ones who are working towards a future in which multicultural stories like these can just be considered good stories. And I think we've made a lot of progress, but we're not there yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what kinds of other stories would you like to see brought to life on screen?
I think anything that is a good story that people can connect to, people can feel something about, people can take something away from, people who have felt like their voice hasn't been heard can see and feel like, that's me. I think that's a good movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any kind of dream co-stars that you're really thinking of working with?
Dream co-stars. So I love character actors, so I would love to work with Andy Serkis. I think he's really awesome. And also, right now I'm on a complete Taika Waititi binge, and I know he always makes cameos in his films, so that would be so much fun because I think he's so funny.
The vampire mockumentary.
Yes, and Hunt for the Wilder People.
Oh my goodness.
Thor Ragnarok.
So good.
It's so amazing.
So good.
Kiwi humor is the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you've been electrocuted apparently, and then you've made drugs on screen. So what is kind of the next big role are you thinking of kind of taking on?
I think that it all has to come down to the script, but right now you can catch me on Netflix in a film called Alex Strangelove, and that character is very much kind of like your high school dream girl who kind of feels over high school boys. And I'm also guesting on the next season of Blind Spot, but I can't give anything away about the character or they will kill me.
Oh, geez. Okay. So let's better not ask about that.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's all. If we're ready for audience questions,
Yeah.
we can take a couple questions from the audience.
Do you guys have questions? Hi.
I don't think now it's on. I was just wondering, so I'm on like the filmmaking side, and I'm always really interested to hear about the filming process. So this sounds like such a fun, unique movie. So I'm just wondering what your favorite scenes were to film and why, without giving away too much of the plot.
Oh, okay. That's easy, actually. My favorite scene was actually with the really funny and talented Scotty Takeda, who plays Tommy, my character's best friend in the film. And the scene was we were exchanging Christmas gifts, and I just thought that it was such a lovely film because it was a lovely scene because it was the first holiday gift that my character had ever gotten in her life. So it was just a really nice, warm moment in a film that gets pretty dark. And it was always fun to work with Scotty because he riffs so much.
So my question is, what inspired you to become an actress, and why do you do it?
So I was a really shy little girl, and I saw this film, Alfonso Cuarón's A Little Princess, and the lead character in that, Sarah, the way that she told stories and brought them to life and obviously was conveyed through a beautiful film that really touched me. And I just knew that I wanted to do it, even though I didn't know how because, I mean, my mom's a teacher, my dad's a doctor. They are not part of this industry in any way, and they would have no idea or no advice for me. So when I was 13, I decided to audition for LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts. And I actually didn't get in. Because I had no idea soliloquy was just a fancy word for monologue. But I really wanted to go to that school because I already knew that I wanted to try this. I wanted to act. So I went home, I Googled all the terms, and then I went back and auditioned again, and I got in, and I've been lucky enough to work ever since.
Yeah, I mean, you also went to business school.
I did. I graduated down the street from NYU Stern, actually.
Which is,
so, hey.
Yeah. Yeah, so what was that like? I mean, I think you were, if I remember correctly, you were acting at the same time and kind of juggling business school, and it's all going on at once.
Yeah, it was a little crazy, actually. For the first year and a half of school, I was shooting a show for TBS called Are We There Yet?, which shot in Connecticut. So I was just commuting between, I tried to keep all my classes to one day, and then, or 2 days, and then commute back and forth on the train.
Yeah, I imagine that must have been very, very hectic.
It was a little crazy. It's definitely crazy, but it was definitely worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Do we have time for, I think we're all out of time for audience questions.
Oh.
But thank you so much for joining us, Annie.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes. The movie comes out September 14th in select theaters. And yeah, super excited to see. And yeah, come back and visit us some other time.
Thank you guys so much.